Hi, this is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle. Today I get to work on a vintage reel. Bob in Pennsylvania sent me two of these reels in. They're both the same. They're Pflueger Akron reels, and they're nice reels. He had asked me to clean them up, tune them up, do a little bit of a repair on them. This one runs beautifully. However, the line guide is outside of the slot. Not a big problem. We'll get around to that. This one's a little bit more sluggish. So I think maybe we'll do this one as the subject of the video, and then we'll do the other one right after that so that Bob can get these back out there fishing. I get this question a lot about the gemstone caps on the side. They are hard. Most of the time they're an industrial strength ruby kind of a thing, or a garnet or something, and they're used as the spool adjusters to hold them tight or to give them a little bit of play and to act smoothly. And it's they're harder than the metal, so that's why they do that. Well, we're going to put the other one aside for a moment. I'm going to take a look at this, see what's going on in this reel. We'll show you how this reel was made, show you how to service it, and more importantly, how Bob can get this one out there fishing again. I don't remember if he said these belonged to his father or grandfather, or what the story behind that was. But regardless, I'm going to leave the old braided line on here just because of that. I'm not sure if he's interested in preserving the old stuff or taking this reel fishing. But by the time we're done, he's going to be able to do either one of them, whatever it is that he chooses to do with them. Well, I just tried turning that with a screwdriver. I don't want to damage the slot, so I'm going to go get a socket or a nut driver that fits. I'll be right back. One of the things to note when you work on these older vintage reels made in the U.S. is that these are not metrics. They are U.S. threaded, and I found the right driver. Always good. We're going to start by taking off the screws. These have probably been in there a little while. I think it might help. Just drop a little bit of penetrating oil on the screw heads. I don't know if we're going to take this side off. You generally do not need to take the non-gear side plate off. There's 3 screws holding the side plate on, and then there's 2 that are actually holding the assembly for the line guide. Let's go ahead and do that first. Let's see what we can do. You're going to need micro screwdrivers on these. They're very small bladed slots. And while I do that, I want to encourage you to subscribe to my channel, particularly if you like to see how fishing reels are made, old and new, if you'd like to understand how to service them, how to keep them fishing, a little bit about the histories behind them, and well, the name by itself here tells a lot of the history of this fishing reel. It's Pflueger Akron. So the Pflueger is for Ernest Pflueger, the founder of Enterprise Manufacturing Company, which was located in, well, you guessed it, Akron, Ohio. Those are kind of where this one was made and who made it. Let's see if we can just get this whole thing off now. I guess I have to take the 2 side plate screws off here that are attached to the worm drive. I think I may have to take that off on the other side as well. That worm drive and line guide assembly actually rotate out. Be careful, you just saw that's a very small screw. You don't want to lose that. Let's get that off this side. Let's do the same over here. And we can rotate the line guide out, and we can do the service of that while it's off the reel. And we can get to the side plate. Now, what's going to happen with this almost all of the time, if you have a sluggish reel, it's just dried grease or lack of grease. And easy enough to do that. All right, we've removed the line guide assembly simply by pulling that out. Now we should be able to remove the main assembly, and you can see primary issue with this reel is all dried grease. That's why it's not working good. We're going to have to remove the other side plate in order to service the spool. And as long as you're keeping track of what you're doing with this, it's not a big deal. So, take pictures at critical junctions. Make sure you know where those parts are coming from, the order, the sequence, kind of the orientation, and the like, so that it makes it easy for you to put it back together again. Well, we pretty much are taking this whole reel apart here. That's okay. One more. Okay, so we're pretty much in pieces and parts now. Take your spool out, take your spool out, and you wanted to get that spool out because you can see all the dirt and old greases there. This one actually works pretty good because, well, we got to clean this up as well. To clean that up, I generally will use a 4-0, which is a fine steel wool, or I will use a kitchen scrubby pad with some rod and reel cleaner on it. I think I can probably use the kitchen scrubby here. I'm noticing that this is kind of just dirt. There's not a lot going on here. And again, what you like to do is preserve as much of the character of the reel. 4 hours of polishing steel wool. It is not an aggressive cut, so just be careful if you do use it. But that should clean that up nicely. And that's really what's going to be going on with this whole reel. The reel itself is beautifully made, quality materials, so I don't expect to see any real failure in here. But what I do expect to see is, well, just what we're seeing, a lot of old dirt and debris. Okay, that cleaned up beautifully. Look at that. That reel is not the new kid on the block, if you will, but boy, did it clean up nice. And we can take that one out as well. Let's go behind the scenes here. Clean this section up. Again, just a little bit of light metal polish on there. I'm using an automotive polish. I'm using turtle waxes, chrome polish. In the front here, we're going to use a penetrating oil. I'm using WD-40 to dissolve the greases that are on the face of this. And you can see, I said quite some time, and if you follow my channel, you kind of know what I'm going to say already, but simplicity in design will always win. And this is a beautiful reel designed simply, and well, it's just a nice pleasure to work on it. All right, this goes back here. We can clean the top post here. Now this is the one with the slot. So the one with the slot is going to be forward facing. You want to get the old dirt out of that slot. That one will face forward. And then the one on the back end is not slotted. And that'll go in the back of the case, just like that. All right, that's kind of your case. Sort of hanging out there. Looks like we have a little bit of a tangle going on here with the line. Again, I want to preserve that line. So I'm just going to wrap this around. There's some knots in it. Those knots are not going to serve anybody any good, so let's take that tangle piece off there. I'm just going to put a rubber band on that to hold that tight. We're doing this video so that Robert can do it the next time. All right, clean out the inner. Inspect your gear. The gear comes off. There is a slotted side to the gear when you go to reinstall. The gear is clean. Just put a little bit of grease onto that. Just like that on the excess. The other side of this is clean. Then we can come over and clean this. Now for this one I'm going to use the kitchen scrubby just to show you that you can do it that way as well. It's a rod and reel cleaner. This is Penn's rod and reel cleaner. It's just a basic kitchen scrubby. It's not the aggressive one. I don't like the Scotch Brite. It's a little bit too aggressive. But this one is one of these that is available at your dollar stores. Multi-pack, relatively inexpensive. I guess they don't do well when you're using them to scrub pans, but they do wonderful for this because they don't injure the surface very much at all, if they do. Alright, that's cleaned on that side. And it looks like we probably needed that the steel wool there anyway. This old dried grease has a habit of caking, varnishing, and well then just becoming a little bit more difficult to remove. It's leaked out of the side plate holes. Alright, I think we got that. We talked a little bit about the garnet or the ruby side plate. They call them jeweled end caps, and they are. They're industrial grade jewels, but they are jeweled caps. I'm going to grab a brush here and put a little bit of grease into the bushing on the side plate there. And I think we're getting pretty close to putting this back together again. I think the first thing we'll do is just put the posts back in so that we can hold it. And bring the spool in. Bring the Von Gear side plate on. And it's just a matter now of lining up a bunch of stuff. I'm going to start with the bottom, the reel stand. A little bit of a balancing act because one of the crossbars on the other side goes through further. That's going to anchor a case. Let's get that one on. This might be the most difficult part of the service. It's getting your pieces back on here. But if you have any questions on this, if you want to know a little bit more about Pflueger, if you want to know more about the types of reels they made quite a bit of reels. They were around quite some time. They were an early competitor to Shakespeare, and ironically, Shakespeare eventually purchased the company in the 1950s when, well, Pflueger was a family business, like Shakespeare was a family business. And I guess after the family no longer had anybody to pass the legacy on to, it was sold. But they made all kinds of reels. They made reels, I believe. Well, they still make reels. They don't, but the brand is still around. The brand belongs to Pure Fishing. Pure Fishing is well, it's a conglomerate. It owns an awful lot of the older legacy brands. It owns Mitchell and Abu and Penn, just to name a few. Finor and Van Stahl and, well, Berkeley, and, well, there's a whole bunch of them out there. Shakespeare. I guess they acquired Pflueger when they acquired the Shakespeare brand. All right. So I think I got the ones on this side. I do. That'll stabilize this plate now. And so let's go over and do what we haven't done, which is this piece of the puzzle. And I mentioned I did have a nut cap driver. This, I put it on the side here for a moment, but I did loosen it before I did that. So give me a second, I will get the driver. Don't need it for now, but I need it for when I put it back together again. Let's take that pad again, clean this side off. And again, you got some varnishing or some shellacking going on. That's part of what the story of the reel is. I like to keep a lot of that history around. And I'd like it to show that it's, well, the life that it's had. This one says it's been sitting for a while now. Get that cap off. I might, yeah, that's not going to be able to do that. All right. The main gear came out. This is a direct drive reel. There is no anti-reverse. It's what's commonly called a knuckle buster reel. This one does have a cast control feature to it. That's right here. It's this thumbing here. It enables you to slow the spool by putting pressure on the inner part of the spool, and you saw that kind of when we took it off. It's going to, you saw the tracking on the other piece. I probably should have pointed that out when I had that spool out, but that's what was causing that. All right, we're going to just spray the main gear. That main gear is pretty clean, but we're going to just use this because this is what you should do. Clean out the main gear. I use a bristle brush. You can use a toothbrush or anything else for that matter. Just get that old grease, and looks like we got somebody's hair caught in there. No, it's not mine. Somewhere along the line we probably should do a DNA test, find out who was using this reel and whose hair that was. I'm not going there. All right. Beautiful brass gear, single piece. We can take a moment here to put a little bit of grease onto the shaft, which is going to go through the case. Grease the teeth. I'm using fishing reel grease. I recommend that you only use fishing reel grease. In this case, this is Penn Precision Reel Grease. That can go in there. You can also take a little bit of that grease and put that into the gear side bushing. Invert this. Bring your handle over. Your nut cap. Just because these reels are old doesn't mean that they're not effective at all. They're very well manufactured, well engineered, and certainly have stood the test of time. Here's mine. Make sure you don't cross strip that. That's what I'm having a little bit of an issue with right now. Just making sure that this nut cap goes on square. There we go, got it now. Just have to be patient with that. If you try to force it and cross strip it, it'll be an issue. Now we can do well with that. A little bit of penetrating oil onto the two studs for the knob. That'll work its way in. Okay, I was just going to go load the side plate on, and I noticed that the stud was out of place because I had installed this upside down. Easy enough mistake to make, right? So I just took a moment here to put it in the correct way, and now it should just kind of merge in nice and easily. I was looking for the hole before and wasn't there. Go figure, huh? All right, let's take these three, put this back on. We'll go service the line guide next, and then we should be able to get this one out there fishing again. These are fun reels. As I mentioned before, there is a certain thing to be said about clean design and good materials. And one of the things to say is it just will last and last and last. Okay. A moment to put these two down, and we'll show you the line guide assembly. One more. Okay, over to the line guide assembly. So the line guide assembly has a pawl in it. You want to make sure that the pawl is clean. Again, you're going to need a small screwdriver to remove the cover And again, be careful with these screws. They're very small screws. Generally a pick will pull that pawl out now. And you want to make sure that the pawl is cleaned. In this case, it's got as much dried grease on it as the other pieces of the reel. So I'm going to use that penetrating oil. I'm going to pull the dirt off of the shoulders of the pawl. And this is why I wear the glove. You can see we got a lot of dirt and debris and the like. While we have that off, let's go ahead and put the penetrating onto the worm gear. You can turn this worm gear now. So what I like to do is take a clean cloth with that oil on it. Bring it over to the one side, turn the gear. And if there is any dirt and debris on there, it will come off on the cloth. This one's pretty clean. That's the easiest way to do it. You can also pull the screw if you like and pull the whole assembly out. Generally in the past I find that that's not necessary if your line guide is clean. Push down on that to make sure that it seats properly. Bring your cover back over. This probably is another hard part of the assembly here. It's these little screws that aren't easy to put back in. Actually, I'm going to go to a micro driver here. Give me a little bit more control. Okay. Now, when I service these line guides, I do not put grease on them. Grease attracts dirt and holds it. So I prefer to use the oils. It looks like there's a little bit of dirt on the outside. I'm going to go back to that cleaner. And we'll just finish up cleaning that shield. And it's easy enough to reinstall. Line your piece up. Make sure that you get your line guide into the slot where it will travel. Kind of match everything up. And again, it's a little rotational thing. Okay, I think we got it. Now we just need to get the small screws. Came out of the case. Again, I think I'll use that little micro driver there. That's the hardest part for me, is these little screws. They just want to run away on you. Go back to the other one. It seems like the slot is okay for the other one. If you have enough trouble with these, try using a little bit of grease, which is what I just put on the end of this tip here. Grease kind of acts as a temporary kind of a glue to hold it in place while you go work it. All right, 1 down, 3 to go. Well, if you're still with me, I want to encourage you again to subscribe. So I'm going to trust you're enjoying this. Subscribe so that you can see the reels that I work on and learn how to do it yourself. And as we kind of noted here, you'll learn a little bit about the company's histories and who these people were and when these reels were made and how they were used and the like. Try to do more than just the kind of ins and outs of the screws and take apart. Okay, there's one more to go. Somebody commented once that yes, I do use my thumb to kind of hold the pieces and parts in place, steady the driver. Let's see how we did. There's a beautiful reel. Again, this is the Pflueger Akron. It was made in Akron, Ohio, made in the USA, of course. It's showed you a full take apart cleaning, explained a little bit about the side caps. Let's see how we did. Oh, just beautiful. Hard to beat these reels. Again, two things you got going for you here. One, you have a cast control, which will put more pressure on or take pressure off of your spool. You have these adjustable side caps, which will increase the speed of the spool. And this one's operating like the other one that we took out of the box. So there you go. All that dry grease was the reason why this was kind of sluggish. It's all been cleaned up. It's all been put back together again. It's ready to go fishing. Well, I hope you've enjoyed that. Before I leave, I want to thank our first responders, our police, fire, safety, rescue, everybody involved in keeping us out of harm's way. I want to again thank you for watching. I want to wish everybody a great weekend. This is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle.